And good morning, everyone, and welcome to the virtual breakfast sessions. I'm Larry Sashin, and today we have somebody really special for you to meet. But before we introduce her, let me thank the people who are paying our bills. Ed Flanagan and the Error Group. Listen, I've been saying this for years. If you are tired of paying those employee taxes that just seem to disappear and you get nothing back from it, call Ed Flanagan in the Era Group. They have a cafeteria 125 plan that is sponsored by the IRS that'll help you claw back some of that money and give your employees a benefit and some extra cash. So call Ed Flanagan and the Era Group. Back to our show. Coffee with Alexandra Mortati. Alexandra, why don't you say hi to the people and tell them who you are?
Hi, I am Alexandra Mortati. I am the VP of Marketing at Orlando Foods, an Italian food importing company. And I am the founder of Women in Pizza, a nonprofit 501(c)(3), geared towards helping women in the pizza industry.
Okay, thank you. Fred, say hi.
Hi, I'm Fred Klashman, the editor and publisher of Total Food Service, and obviously a big pizza fan.
Yes, yes. Alexandra, what do we want to talk about first? Food, pizza, or both?
I think both food and pizza hand in hand.
Okay, so let's do it. How did you decide to start this organization about pizza?
I decided to start Women in Pizza back in 2019. I was just coming on to Orlando Foods full time. They had just come back from the Pizza Expo in Las Vegas. And I'd seen that while they were there, they did what they called a Women in Pizza Power Hour. So they kicked all the men out of our booth and invited all of our female friends and customers and associates in to network and make pizza and just kind of have a platform to meet each other and display their talents. So when they came back, I asked our owners, Fred and Carlo, I said, why is that something you only do for 1 hour of the year and not something that you focus on more? You clearly see that there's a need to create space and visibility for women in the industry. Um, so why is that not something that you prioritize more frequently? And they kind of looked at me and they were like, well, we love the idea. We wish we could do more, but right now we just don't have the resources. And they said, but if that's something you're passionate about, we will back you 100%. And so my then colleague, Casey, and I um, got together and I outlined a whole bunch of plans, and Women in Pizza was born.
Okay, so what does it actually do?
So it started as like a grassroots social movement, and now it's officially a 501(c)(3) nonprofit. And our goal is to offer opportunities to women in the industry that they might not otherwise have access to. So right now we're still more focused on the visibility side, so still telling people stories, hopefully encouraging more women to join, showcasing women's achievements, celebrating and recognizing them for all of their contributions to the pizza industry. And my goal is by the end of the year to start offering grants and scholarships for women to put towards their careers and their businesses, and to start a formalized mentorship program as well.
Okay. Okay, so why don't we now concentrate a little bit on the thing that pays the bills, Orlando Foods. Uh, you have a long history with that company, uh,
I do.
longer than your age should have. Uh, how did you get involved?
So my great grandfather started Orlando Foods back in 1948. When people ask me how long I've been with the company, I always joke and say, well, my whole life. Technically, officially 7 years, but really my whole life. It was my first job when I was 12 years old, was going to the office in the summer on the week during the weekend, filing and doing all the admin work that needed help being done. Then that kind of just continued throughout high school. And after school, my senior year of high school, I would go every day. In college, when I wasn't at an internship, I was working there. And so I always said, I never want to join the family business. Never say never. It was the best decision I think I've ever made. It was something I had to come to on my own. So after I graduated college, I worked in New York City for a few years. And paying your bills in New York is very expensive. And so one day I was talking to Fred, who's one of our owners, also happens to be my dad. And I was like, I can either afford rent, but then I can't pay to eat, or I can also buy groceries, but then I can't fully afford rent. I was like, I'm at the point where like I need to be earning a little extra money. And I said, you are a food company and you don't do any marketing. I was like, well, why don't I help you? And I can start doing some social media on the side, just as a way to kind of earn money so that I can afford to live. And he was like, that's a great idea. So for a few months, I was doing that, and just different projects kept coming up. And eventually, within a few months, I made the switch to full time. So I hope
So
that answered the question.
You did. So what is the role of pizza at Orlando? And is it part of a larger mix of product line? And how have you taken what you're trying to do from a marketing standpoint and built that into the Women in Pizza initiative as well?
Yeah, so pizza is like the foundation of our business. Um, we import flour, tomatoes, olive oil, buffalo mozzarella, burrata, vegetables and oil from Italy. Those are all things that belong on a pizza or go on a pizza. So we're entrenched in that community and in that industry specifically. 30, I want to say 30 years ago, we started bringing in Caputo flour. And Fred and Auntie Mo would travel the country trying to convince people that they needed to spend more money on this special flour from Italy, and they needed to learn how to make Neapolitan pizza. And people thought they were crazy. So it took 30 years to get to where we are today, but it's really amazing to see the impact that they've also had on the industry. And now to see this artisan pizza movement that keeps growing and rising, and pizza quality in America just keeps getting better, which is better for, I think, the industry and the country as a whole. And so it's always just been where we've belonged and where we found our home and made our home. I'm sorry, what was the remaining part of your
So
question?
do you think you've helped move the industry from this dollar slice mentality into making pizza a higher quality product? Has that been something that was a byproduct of what you guys have done?
I think that we've definitely been a part of that
Yeah.
growth and that change. I think Fred always jokes with me, and he was like, I never used to read an ingredient label. Whereas, like, me and my siblings, when we go grocery shopping, we look at every ingredient label. And I think now we live in an age of information. Like, people have more resources, they know more, they want to know more, they want to understand more. So we're more aware and conscious of what we're consuming and putting in our bodies. And I think bringing over and promoting better for you ingredients, I think that was a cultural shift, but it was also something that we always were trying to promote because it's one of our values. We want to live healthy lives.
Mhm.
Our mission statement is that we want to improve food quality in America. And that's just something that's always been at the forefront of what we do. We always joke we like to do things that are difficult because we import flour and tomatoes into the US, which is one of the largest producing countries of flour and tomatoes. So if we didn't like to do things that were hard, we wouldn't have a job right now.
Yeah.
But for us, it's worth it. We feel the difference. We see the difference. And I think the time that we've invested in spreading our message and having people see, as soon as you try it, you understand. It's hard to then go back. And I think just the cultural shift and people's perspective shift over time as well. Like, it was kind of the perfect moment of what we've been doing since 1948, and now we're kind of seeing people start to prioritize it more.
The other guardrail on this, and you and I have talked about this over the last couple of months, was this whole piece over the legislation with bromide.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
mean, that's a big change
Mm-hmm.
in your industry.
Well, before you start, is there an educational part of this that your company is helping the restaurants get over this hump of doing something different for a change?
Yeah, so we have a corporate chef on staff who goes and he works with different restaurants and operators. If they want to convert, he can show them how to convert their recipe to work with our flour, which is unbromated. And actually, we're planning to hopefully do something in the fall, an event for people on understanding unbromated flours and how they can adapt them into their restaurants as well. Because bromate was an amazing fixer. I mean, that made your dough more extensible, more flexible. It just solved every kind of problem essentially. And so without that, um, having that in your flour, now you have to change your recipe and you have to adapt, because it's going to be more affected by all these other factors. Um, so
But the other thing I think that's changed is pizza is no longer pizza no longer needs to be an inexpensive or cheaper food. In other words, people are comfortable paying a decent price for a great pie.
yeah,
So I think that's changed dramatically, the perception of pizza as
well,
a cheap food.
100%. I also think that that comes along with like choosing better quality ingredients. So the beautiful thing about Caputo is that the only ingredient you will ever find on a bag of Caputo flour, with the exception of the gluten-free, is wheat. There's zero additives. It's unbromated, unbleached. There's nothing in it. So it's a high quality product. Same thing with um, the tomatoes we import or the different food items there are so many amazing food brands out there, ingredient
Mhm.
companies out there and manufacturers and that care about quality and consistency. And so people are now starting to invest in them and use them, and their customers can see and taste and feel a difference as a result. And then it's hard to go back. And so as we elevate pizza quality, you're elevating the perception of pizza, you're making it healthier for people as well. They're willing to invest more in it because now it's not just like, okay, um, a last minute, it still can be, but I just need a quick fix, and it's becoming more intentional.
Right.
And I think that's really great for the industry. Like, I want to see people sitting in a pizzeria, enjoying a pie with friends and having an experience around it. Um, and I want them to, I mean, it's such a nostalgic pizza, like item in general, pizza. I think we tie so many of our core memories around events that had pizza at
Yeah.
present in them. Um, and I think that's what's also so great about pizza is there's so many different styles of it. So it's a food item that everybody loves, and there are a million different styles. So there really is a type of pizza for every moment. And sometimes like you can't help but want to go back and have that nostalgic slice that you
Mhm.
had when you were growing up, even if it might not be as great quality
Yeah.
as what you're used to now. But like there's still that time where you're like, no, that's the slice that I
Yeah.
need.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
sometimes
I don't
it's the
I don't
plate.
think we're
It's
ever
the
going to
plate.
see that huge New York slice anymore. It's just spend $15 on a slice because it's a quarter of the size of a pizza. But I think people, I guess it's driven by Gen Z with their health requirements, the fact that they have money to spend. A personal pizza now costs $18 to $25, and it's now accepted as a dinner item, not
Mhm.
a grab and go. Um,
But I think the state of the world in general has also like just gotten more expensive. Labor is more expensive than it ever was before. Ingredients are more expensive than they ever were before. And so you have to like factor all of that in as well. And I think if you're going to curate an experience, like if you're going to have something high priced, you may as well curate a nice experience around it as well.
yeah, yes.
So let's talk about in developing women in pizza. What kind of opportunities are out there for women? I see people who are sales managers of oven companies. I see people on the food side. I obviously people that are operating restaurants.
Mhm.
What do you see out there in terms of opportunity that exists
I think, yeah, I think there's endless opportunity out there. I think when it seems like there isn't, it's maybe you haven't seen yourself represented before. It's hard to, I always say this, that it's hard to imagine yourself doing something if you don't see yourself represented. And so if you don't see somebody that looks like you doing something, you might not necessarily think like, oh, I could do that too. And I think what's so great right now is there are so many women in leadership roles in all different avenues of the pizza industry. So whether you're a DSR or you work for a manufacturer, or you're an operator. And there's so many, I talk to women all the time, and I talk to a lot of women who work with their husbands. And oftentimes it's the husband who's the face of the business. And then the wife is like, oh, I do the books, I do all this stuff on the back end. And it turns out like they're the ones that are actually keeping the doors open
Yeah.
and managing all like a lot of very important aspects of the business, but it might not seem as glamorous because they might not be the ones physically making pizza every day. But that doesn't mean that their role is not crucial to the success of the business. And so I think there's so many different avenues and there's so much opportunity out there. It's you might not always see it because it might not be the glamorous job or the role that is forward facing, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist and isn't important, and there's not a leadership potential within it.
Okay. Are there more and more women women in pizza besides the back end? Yeah, I have never seen a woman making a pie. I mean,
Really?
men making Nona pies does not sit well with me. Um, is there more and more people going into the front of the house?
100%. It's interesting. A lot of the husband and wife teams now, you see the wife going out and making more and more pizza as well. Every year, when we go to Pizza Expo, I see more and more women competing. I came back from Italy 2 weeks ago where we just had the Caputo Cup in Naples. And I run what we call the American division. It's a New York style category. And a 23-year-old woman just won. And last year, a 27-year-old or 20, she was 25 at the time, a 25-year-old woman won.
Where are they from? What part of the country?
So Carmela Williams, who won this year, is from Indiana. And Emily Joyner, who won in 2025, is from Idaho.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So it's grown way beyond New York and grown way beyond just urban area.
Oh, completely. I
Yeah.
mean, there's amazing pizza now in all corners of the country and every state. I mean, I think that's why I love this industry so much is pizza is such a beloved food item. It's probably one of the most used words, if not the most used word in the world. And it's hard to meet somebody who says, I don't like pizza. And people are so passionate about it, and the quality everywhere is getting so much better. And there's so many options and so many types and styles that you can always discover something new. It's really like the gift that keeps on giving.
Okay, so you mentioned something new. So what is new?
What is new? I guess that depends on what you're looking for, like what you're used to.
What are the trends that you see coming out? Where are things that are appearing that weren't there
The
before?
next Detroit, the next what's the next trend, right?
I've been seeing a lot of like pizza style pizzas coming back. A lot of people on the manufacturing side, I've seen a lot of like par baked crusts becoming popular, but I think Roman style has been a little bit slower to get moving than I think people were hoping, but I think it's still gaining in popularity. I think people are constantly experimenting with their fermentation and their hydration and their processes of making dough. So whether they're doing a direct method or they're using sourdough, I think coming out of COVID, that was a big thing people were starting to do. You saw a lot more naturally leavened doughs. So I think that it's always shifting and evolving. And right now there's a style that I keep seeing more and more of that Chris Decker, who worked for Metro Pizza, now he's with Truly Pizza. to me, it's his style of pizza, and it has this like micro blistering around the crust, and they're these beautiful artisan pizzas. I always tell him, like, I just want a coffee table book of photos of your pizzas. They're unbelievable. And I see more and more people doing that, kind of replicating his style now. That seems to be something that's emerging more.
So
Okay.
it's the kind of thing you see when you're in Europe and you walk by in a marketplace and you'll see a entire spread of different pizza with different topping on it. It looks like artwork more as much as it looks like edible.
In Europe,
Yeah.
that was what I see more in the US, but I would say in Europe, yeah, everything. I mean, you walk past a case in Rome
Yeah.
and you see unbelievable toppings, things that I think a lot of Americans still are not necessarily adventurous enough for. Um, but like one of my favorite things is when you put like potato and rosemary on like a Roman slice. And I think in America, people are like, you're putting a starch on a starch, like that's a
Right.
no-go. And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's unbelievable. Just try it, please. It makes so much sense once you've had it.
Yeah, the last time I was in Rome, all they had was a pizza that was nicely done with olive oil and herbs.
Oh,
And that was the whole thing. That was the pie.
You and I
yeah.
have talked about this a couple of times. When you started, the deck oven was the primary method of cooking pizza. We now have conveyor ovens, deck ovens, speed ovens. I mean, on and on and on. Can you talk a little bit about how the technology has changed the types of things that are being produced and the type of opportunity there is in terms of how to grow a menu and design a
Yeah.
menu?
Yeah. Well, I think one thing that we always tell our customers is like your dough can be for more than just pizza, right? Like I mean, and now in an electric oven or a deck oven or a gas oven, you can make your bread with it. You can fry it and you can do
Mhm.
appetizers with it. There's so many things you can now take advantage of, or you can do. Not now, you've always been able to do it, but I think as equipment, ovens specifically, have gotten better. You're able to have more consistent results. You're able to, I mean, so many of these deck ovens now, you can have like a Neapolitan stone in them, and some of them go up to like 800, 900 degrees, and you can have a real artisan Neapolitan style pizza without needing a wood burning or a gas
Mhm.
dome oven. And that opens a lot of opportunity for a lot of people to expand their menu, and to offer people something different. And it also lets people get creative. So now you don't have to bake at 500, or you don't even have to bake at 800. You could bake at 650, 700, and make a really incredible product, um, that people will come back for, that kind of has the best of both worlds in it. Um, and so I think if you're willing to think outside the box or play
Mhm.
around a little bit, you can create almost like your own style or find your own niche without having to kind of be like, well, my oven has to be maintained at 1,000 degrees, or my
Right.
oven only goes to 550. Like you
Right.
have a lot more room to explore. Um, and with multiple decks, you can do multiple different things.
What about combi ovens? Do you see any use of combi ovens to create flatbread and pizza and things like that?
I am unfamiliar with that one.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're
Okay,
starting to see a lot of those out
Yeah.
there.
for the
And
regular restaurant, how do they get into making pies also? How do they introduce a pie into the mix?
Yeah, I think it depends on what your capabilities are, but I mean, there's some really great frozen dough options out there now. So if you didn't even want to have to manage making dough yourself, you buy frozen dough, you slack what you need or what you want to sell for that night or that day. Um, if you have a good oven, you can bake it in there. You could do it in a pan. You could do it like a focaccia. You could do it on a stone or right on the deck. I mean, there's so many opportunities. You just have to kind of figure out what is your like what is your end goal, and what type of pizza do you want to be offering? Um, because I think who doesn't love pizza? You could offer it as like an appetizer. You could do it more focaccia style and with different dips and things like that. I mean, the possibilities are kind of endless. It's just you have to decide how you want to present it and how it best fits into your current menu.
And then the other thing I'm curious about is why give away a bread basket when I could sell an appetizer pie? I mean,
Yeah.
you know, from an economic standpoint, why not rethink how you're using pizza on a menu?
Well, and one thing that I think has been so brilliant also is I see so many like butter flights or um different focaccias with dipping sauces, right? It's a great way to upsell. So like, instead of the bread basket, like, oh, I want your sourdough or I want your focaccia and I want to try the three different types of butter that you
Yep.
make, or I want to
Yep.
try your different dipping sauces. Um, the bread basket is my favorite part of a meal. I love bread. And so anytime I see that I can order a focaccia or bread or something, like I will pay for it because I love it and I want to try it. And I think there's so many ways you can upsell that item on your
Like that.
menu just with little small things or just making it unique or special to your business.
Okay.
So hold on a second. So I want to go back
Last
to
question, Fred.
I want to go back to women in pizza for a second. I want to talk about
Yeah.
like Papa John's was just sold for $2.7 billion to a equity firm in Connecticut. Um, we've seen still an explosion on the franchise level with companies like Blaze, et cetera, that continue to grow. What are some of the opportunities that exist in terms of job and career potential for women as the industry continues to grow, maybe not across the chain level as much as the independent operator. What do you see with that?
I think there's opportunity everywhere. I think you just have to go for it, right? I think we luckily are now living in a world and in a culture where it doesn't matter what gender you are in order to get a role, or like there are probably still some biases in place, but it's
Yeah.
getting better. And I think as long as you prove yourself and you're willing to work hard, I think you also have to be realistic. Like it doesn't mean that you should necessarily apply for the top job if you haven't done the levels to get there. But if once you prove yourself, I think it's anything is possible today. And I think there's so much opportunity. You just have to seek it out.
Yes,
And
yes.
on
Well,
and on your Women in Pizza website, there's a number of stories inspirational about people that are going for it.
Yeah, and
okay.
not every Friday, but most Fridays we run what we call an Instagram, a Feature Friday series where we highlight one woman. I actually just right before this conducted an interview, um, and it's it's amazing because all these stories have so many similar and commonalities and um, similar experiences within them, even though the people are so different and where they're located is so different. But one thing I've noticed is the resilience of these women is unbelievable. Like they are faced with a hurdle and they don't let it stop them. And I think the biggest thing you can do for yourself is just go for it. And just don't, I think I was talking to Emily Joyner right before this, and I was saying to her, like, we're so good at talking ourselves out of doing things or convincing ourselves that, like, oh, maybe I'm not good enough or I'm not ready for this. And we're the ones holding ourselves back most of the time. You just have to trust in yourself and in your capabilities and go for it.
Okay. Okay. Listen, I can go on forever with this. And we will have you back when we do pizza shows. Now that we
Awesome.
know that I know you exist. Um, and time is our enemy. And we have to start wrapping up. And we want you to give that last bit of information that people should remember. But before we do that, we have to thank our sponsors once again. Ed Flanagan and the Era Group. Listen, you get a shipment of 30 boxes. You count the boxes. You look at make sure the number of boxes matches what's on the invoice. You stick it on the pin. You put the boxes away. How do you know you got the right thing? How do you know they charge you the right price? Well, if you don't have to have the time to go over those invoices, call Ed Flanagan and Era Group. Their people will sift through your invoices. They'll sift through your contracts to make sure you get exactly what you ordered at the exact price you agreed to pay. So call Ed Flanagan and the Era Group. Listen, it was a great show. Like I told you before, seems like 5 minutes, but it's a half hour. So Alexandra, before we say goodbye, give that last bit of information that people should take home with them when they think pizza.
I think pizza. I mean, I hope that when you think about pizza, it brings you back to your childhood and your nostalgia and memories and only good feelings. And I think just always remember that there's so much more that goes into it. It's not as simple of a food as you think. And as much as you love it, the people who make it and are behind it love it even more.
Okay. All right. Fred, what do you think?
Thanks, Alex. Thanks for the time. I love. It's one of my favorite areas of the industry. I think there's so much opportunity whether you're selling ovens, whether you're selling flour, whether you're flipping pies. I just think it's an incredible amount of opportunity, and excited to see women in pizza grow.
Yeah, Scott Wiener, he was on the show, he mentioned that pizza is not a food. It's a format. It's a blank canvas. And everybody should use their imagination to make it come to life. And you have just, I want to go out and order a pizza tonight.
Yeah. What is the website, by the way? Let's make sure we share that.
www.womeninpizza.com.
Beautiful.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Well, we're going to be back again next week. So listen, everybody, I only have two things to say. Everyone, stay positive, test negative, and we'll see you next week. Have a good one.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
See ya.
Bye now.